question what you're seeing. Our next guest in the studio just looks like the man in that Russian courtroom there, but it's not the same person, though you have spent time in jail.
Yes, in Arizona.
And he's Shaun Attwood, and Shaun was jailed in America for dealing in drugs, and he now teaches school children about the consequences of this crime. And the reason, Shaun, we're talking about this morning, just to explain to people, you've got this situation where the Foreign Office tells us 850 British citizens locked up in foreign jails on drug charges, and they really want this to stop.
Yeah.
What was your particular story? Why did it happen to you? How did it happen to you?
Well, I went to America as a young person and made $1 million in the stock market, and the money went to my head, and I started throwing rave parties with it, had people bringing ecstasy in from overseas, so I not only broke the law, I take full responsibility. SWAT team smashed my door down, and I ended up in the jail that's got the highest rate of death in America, where even the guards were murdering the prisoners as well as the gang members murdering the prisoners. And
how long did it take you to realise this is such a bad mistake? I've really messed this up?
Well, as soon as you go in, you've got to get used to the sound of heads getting bashed against toilets, bodies getting thrown around. So, you know, it was my wake-up call that I needed, and I realised right away what I'd done wrong. And I know I can't change my past, so now I go into schools and tell young people my story to put them off getting in my situation.
Your sentence was what?
I got sentenced to 9.5 years, and I served just under 6.
Gosh. Yeah. And all that million that you made and whatever, all gone?
Yeah, if you're daft enough to have money and to be breaking the law, they will target you so they can liquidate you and keep all of your assets.
And are you full-time now on this whole situation about the consequences of these crimes, or are you still back at the work that you used to do?
Yeah, I take full responsibility for breaking the law, and I tell young people now, you know, if you're going overseas, you're in party mode, you're not thinking about what laws are out there, what drug laws, and you've got to realise every single country has different drug laws. There's a lady that talks to schools for the same place as me called Sandra Gregory. She was a school teacher. Yeah. She went to Thailand. She got ill. She was too embarrassed to call her parents for a flight home, so she thought she could smuggle some heroin out, swallowed it in plastic. Yeah. They noticed her on the airport on an X-ray, and she was sentenced to death. King of Thailand reduced it, but she served almost 10 years in horrific conditions. A young person in Guildford told me his story. He was in Thailand. He wasn't even doing drugs. He was in a house. Thai police come in. No drugs were found. Thai police asked everyone to give pee samples.
Yeah.
His pee tested positive for marijuana he smoked earlier in England weeks before. Yeah. And because of that, he got stuck in a Thai jail for months on end in horrific conditions.
Okay. However horrific all of that is, and I'm sure Gillian will reflect this now, there's very little sympathy out there, my friend.
No, if you do the crime, do the time. But also a suggestion that perhaps there's a little bit of an arrogance when people carry a British passport. They think abroad that they might be immune from prosecution. That clearly is not the case.
There's that, and you know, a lot of young people are just going out there to party, they're going to Ibiza, you know, drugs is part of that culture, and they're just not thinking about what laws, you know, are applicable. I mean, most of us aren't aware of the laws of England anyway. The law book's this big. I mean, students go to university to study this for years.
Yeah, and you're going to school this morning, I hear.
Yes, I'm speaking at Winchmore School, yes.
Yeah, and what sort of reception do you get to this, and what sort of age group are you talking to?
The schools bring me in on their drugs education as part of PSHE, and I speak at colleges as well. And, you know, I go in these schools, and as soon as I start to get into the jail conditions, they get really gripped.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, the students that stay behind and ask me the most questions, the teachers tell me they are the hardest to reach students. I get emails and tweets.
Because they may be the ones thinking about it, of course.
Exactly.
You see, I have an 11-year-old at the minute, and he's very frightened of the whole idea of drugs, that they'll either kill you, they're bad for you, or you'll be arrested, you know, you do something bad. But then I think what they think at 11 and what they think at 14 or 15 or 16, which is not far away, two different things, different influences on them.
Well, some of these inner city schools, by 14, 15, they're already dealing the drugs. You know, so I speak to year groups as young as 8 and 9 sometimes, because the teachers want me to get in there and put them off before they actually start dealing the drugs.
Well, I think it'd be very interesting to listen to, Shaun. It's a pity you had to go through what you had to go through to be able to lecture like this on the dangers of it all. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, thanks very much for having me on. Cheers. Thank you.
Not at all. Shaun Attwood, and he could be appearing at a school near you. More background